Hello and welcome to Transcendent Leader, the cutting edge of leadership. My name is Andrea Albright, and I am thrilled to be here with you today. We have an amazing guest who is really going to blow you away. He is up to some of the most cutting edge advancements in health, pharmaceuticals, and biotechnology. Before we welcome our guest, let's of course bring the creator, the founder, and our mentor who is guiding us through this process, Satyen Raja. Hi Satyen, how are you today?
Hi Andrea, great to be here. Great to see you, Hinnerk. And I'm really excited today to share. To me, Hinnerk is a very unique individual. He has great brilliance, mental brilliance, intellect, and such, and his scientific understanding is beyond reproach. And yet, to find someone with such a scientific intellect and that depth of brilliance, as well as his brilliance as a CEO and CFO and understanding how to grow businesses and scale them in very large ways. What I got to say about Hinnerk, what I love about you, is that you have such a pure heart of gold. You have a deep care of humanity. You have a deep care of seeing the betterment of millions of people that you perhaps will never even see their face, but you care about them before you even know, and if you will ever even know them. And to me, that's one of your, I would say, one of the most endearing elements of your personality for me. So thank you for being here.
Thank you, Satya.
And with that, let's introduce our amazing guest, Hinnerk Boriss. Welcome, Hinnerk.
Well, welcome. Thanks for having me.
We are so thrilled to have you. And for the viewer who's watching at home, can you give us a background, some of these incredible things that Satyen was sharing? I know the viewer is fascinated to know what makes you a transcendent leader.
Well, that's a tough one, but let me start with the background, as you asked for it. So I'm a plain scientist from the education. So I started out with biochemistry and theoretical physics. Got my education in Germany and at the University of California, Davis and Stanford University. And right after my PhD in enzyme structure and function relationships, I got a professorship at a university in Denmark. But I really wanted to pursue science from another angle and get out of academia. So I started running biotech companies, and the first company was a US biotech company, serving the pharmaceutical industry with science tools for drug discovery. And basically for 15 years, I stayed in that space, running companies that facilitate drug discovery processes. I did that partly from the scientific point of view. So I was actually advancing some of the science and developing my own products. Have filed a couple patents in the field of drug discovery and numerous tools around that. But I've also actually run these companies and managed quite a number of people over time, and been seeing many different settings, experiencing challenges, various different challenges. I experienced major challenges myself. And dealing with those challenges, turning companies around and having people who appear not to be A players and not to be aligned with the company and trying to change that team and the culture, those were initiating the major first learning steps that got me into a self-discovery process. Because when I mean, I'm a scientist, I'm coming from that scientific background, and all those, well, say people skills weren't necessarily the things that I grew up with. So I had to learn a lot on that. And I realized, well, it's learning skills, but there's actually more. It's more about me, how I appear in front of people, how I interact with them. So I wanted to learn more. And at one of the events that I took in personal development, I met Satyen. And I was intrigued from the first time we've met, because I felt he could give me something that was very foreign to me, coming from that super intellectual side. It was really this introspective, body-based aspect that has been very, well, I had very little interaction with. And I must say I've learned enormous amounts from Satyen, in the sense of realizing, being aware of myself, being aware of what might trigger me, being aware of situations when things come up, how I can handle really tough situations, where in the past I would just kind of wave and be point blank, I had no idea how to handle this. I could now stand straight and handle, I would say, anything. And that is the amazing thing. It is, in a way, really hard to describe, and there's probably not really kind of big skills that you would write in a textbook, but it's that stuff that is cropping up, these small little aspects of being that put all these skills that typically management people talk about, put them to life. And enable myself to actually act and go through whatever, and stand straight, walk straight, and keep going, whatever happens.
Wow, thank you for that background. What an amazing experience you've had as a scientist and an academic philosopher, professor, and even a business leader. And I'm interested to hear Satyen's for his take on it, and really how someone like Hinnerk, who can have all the, textbook knowledge, as he said, the textbook saying, okay, this is how you do it, this is what you do, and that intellectual brilliance. But what he said is making the shift into the being. Can you elaborate on what Hinnerk is experiencing and what he's talking about, Satyen?
In the ancient wisdom traditions, they talk about many forms of intelligences. And in transcendent leadership, imagine that we're one being, but we have different elements. So we have our physical element, our body, our health, our vitality, our physical self. We have our mental, intellectual side, which can be cultivated and strengthened and grown, same as your body. Then there's our emotional IQ, our emotional aptitude, our emotional wisdom, how we flow with life, how we orient around experiences, how we make the experience into what it is our emotional intelligence. Stuff is going to happen. Our response to that, the more reactive it is, the more automatic it is based on past imprints and habits, the less awake we are, the more conscientious, emotionally attuned, the more mature we become in that level, then we have a whole different response, which is empowered. So we have our physical, mental, emotional, and there's our spiritual dimension. And the spiritual dimension, there's really no words for it. It's ephemeral. It's the essence of our soul's nature. And so One of the foundations of our cultivation as a transcendent leader is to know that we operate in all these realms. And so we might be strong physically, we might be strong intellectually, we might be strong emotionally, we might be strong spiritually, but can we strengthen all these components of our being? When we do, then something radical happens, something very unique and powerful happens. What happens is our ability to influence and make impact with far less effort happens. Because you see, as a leader, there's what we're doing, which many of us get focused on, the tasks that we have, the lists, all the to-dos, which are innumerous and continuously coming on our table every day. There's what we're doing. And then there's another component of how are we doing what we're doing? What's our mental mindset? Is it long and complicated and complex, our execution, delivery systems, how we bring things into fruition and into reality? Or is it simple, direct, straightforward? So there's what we're doing, how we're doing it. But most importantly, I have found it's who we are being. Who we are being at our core. In essence, where are we coming from at a heart level, at a soul level, at a being level? And so our emphasis is awakening our being, awakening our nature, awakening our self, our true self, not our intellectual, emotional self, but our spiritual self, if you will. And then when we awaken that and ground in that depth of truth, then what happens is who we're being has a whole different transmission. People can receive our directions more fully when we're coming from our being, our self, our essence. They're far more inspired by our shares, our calls to action, our evoking of vision and mission and leadership within our teams gets magnified because we are demonstrating and emanating a core of being that is by its nature influence itself. So that's the essence I want to share is this. First, we awaken our being. That will radically shift how we do and what we do every day as a leader. And that's the essence. That's the pearl that we cannot miss to really have to, affect great change.
Amazing. Well, Hinnerk, can you elaborate on this and talk about what it was like when you had all this success with your intelligence? You've achieved these monumental experiences and you've had all this success. And what was it like for you to shift into this beingness as Satyan is describing it? And what's different today?
All right. When I was working in vitro technologies and heading the operations there, it was a really good working environment. The company, I've been really successful in making the company highly profitable. And it felt good. But talking from today or looking at that from today, I mean, it was kind of automatic what I did. I wasn't thinking about it, but there was a certain level of insecurity about doing it right and doing the right things. And then later at another company, I got into a situation where I had to turn this company around from losing money left and right for the past 10 years to actually profitable within 2 years.
Wow.
That was a very difficult task because this was the first situation where I realized the skills that I'm having are not sufficient. Because this is not about just changing the way the company is doing our marketing and how to do business development in a better way. That was about managing a defunct team. And I didn't have the skills for that at that time. So during that time, turning that company around, I had to learn a lot. And I mean, with hindsight, I'd have loved to know Satyan at that time already, because that would have helped me so much. Because I know I could have probably done well with this with a lot more ease and a lot less trouble than what I've gone through during those years. Yeah, so that's really one of the big differences that I'm seeing from the past, and the good sides and the not so well, the more challenging times, where I see where developing this state of being, what I see now when I interact with people, be this business partners, be this employees, it's not really that I think about what is right. It feels like there's a simplicity to the entire interaction that it's for me getting that connection with the people and building the rapport and having it click and finding out what matters to the people. And that's really about the being. It's not something I could kind of consciously say it's this step, that step, and the other. And by the way, if you would do this in a textbook-like fashion, it wouldn't work, because it's you yourself, or me, myself, and that being that's actually doing it. So that's the difference, I would say. So you could read in Harvard Business Review article on people management, and it says, yeah, this is cool, these are cool ideas, but what they don't tell you is how you actually do it, because they can't, because that's about the being. So you can build that science and management science, how to interact with people, great, but you still have to do that internal work of becoming that person who does it and who just shows up as a person and implements it and is acting in that situation.
What an important distinction you're making. And this is really beautiful, because it's important to realize that even these great ideas that we have as entrepreneurs, as visionaries, if we can't connect to other people, then our ideas won't be carried out into the world. And Satya, how important is this shift? What Hinnerk is saying now, he has these people skills and this connection with people. How much more effective is he as a leader and actually getting these brilliant ideas out onto the planet?
You know, empowered teams, they love to be empowered by an empowered leader. They are inspired by a leader who's in their being and coming from their self, not coming from their mind or just coming from a list of tasks. That capacity to be in connection, true, genuine rapport, connection, unity, to feel as if I as a leader am not only there to give you tasks, but I'm underneath, I'm subjugating my ego to be underneath your ego. I'm aiming to raise and lift you up. I'm aiming to support what is your greatest gifts, talents, capacities? What's your task you have? How can I be of service to that? And when you're connected, as Hinnerk was sharing, that becomes more natural. Now, the connection part's the most challenging part, because there's so much stuff we have to do, all the things that we have to do, distractions, all the considerations we have to take into account every minute, let alone in a day or a week or a month. So in a very simple model, if we look at old school leadership, there was a great emphasis on a lot of spine, be strong, be invincible, let people know what to do, be commanding, direct, all those things. So strong spine. The challenge with the strong spine is of the old school leadership style is there's far less heart. Lots of spine, less heart, less connection, less feeling of we're on the same team. Now, an evolution has started happening, and you can see this in businesses that have chosen to become more evolutionary, to ride the evolutionary wave of transcendent leadership. It's already occurring, it's already happening. And those who have started earlier, they have now come to a place, many of them, where now they've perhaps have gone to the other end of things and have opened their heart even more. They're more so connectable, but then they've lost perhaps their spine a little. They've lost that strength of direction, mission, vision, that galvanizing force that brings everyone together unified, that brings people together under challenges, that brings people into the next state of collective alignment and execution through inspiration and creating visions and helping our team see what's in it for them and the value that they get. So old school, lots of spine, less heart. Modern school, lots of heart, perhaps less spine. For transcendent leadership, which I feel this is what we're here for, it's valuable to have a strong spine of direction, of clarity, of vision and mission that is real, substantial, that people can get around, and the capacity to move everyone in one's teams towards that. That's the strong spine. And now we can have it with and, not either. We can have spine and heart. And heart means that feeling of, yes, let's do this together. Ultimately, it's deep care of our self, our vision, our mission, our teams. It's ultimate care, and ultimately it's care of the greater picture. So I feel that that's where we're all heading in business. And the sooner we hop on that, the better it is for all of us.
There's so many aspects to this conversation. I want to go into every nuance because I know that many of the viewers may be experiencing this kind of transition where they're realizing, hey, my mind and my intellect isn't going to get me to the vision of what I want to create. And Hinnerk, I'm interested, can you share what you're up to now with autoimmune diseases and what you're doing in the next evolution as a transcendent leader?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I'm in the process of pulling together a team of really distinguished experts in the biopharma space and combine that with a technology that has the capability to kind of act as a vaccine for allergies across the field of all kinds of allergies, independent of the allergen. In animal models, this has been shown to be effective for almost the lifespan of the animals. So far, we don't know how long that's going to last in humans, but scaling that idea is probably a multi-year effect of a very short dosing regime, just kind of a month or two dosing, and then it's going to last for a couple of years. But the same combination of antibody treatments is also able to heal inflammatory diseases, and inflammatory diseases are all crop up all over the place. So often people have inflammations in the gut, for instance, that comes up, but or rheumatoid arthritis is an inflammatory disease. Most cancers have inflammatory components, so it's a huge field, or look at cardiovascular diseases, most are initially triggered by inflammation. So there is a huge potential on getting a better treatment for a very broad range of diseases. And another aspect is that as this treatment actually resets the immune system to a normal, healthy state, it will also be possible to use it to treat autoimmune diseases, which is a vast field that where there's almost no treatment. There are medicines to treat the symptoms, but not to treat the root cause and to heal. And this would be an approach to heal autoimmune diseases. So that's what I'm doing right now. It's about building that expert team that can take this technology that has been developed by academics and making it a real product.
It's absolutely incredible. And what a meaningful pursuit as a leader, as an entrepreneur, as a scientist, to be able to help hundreds of millions of people who are suffering from inflammation, autoimmune diseases, and like you were saying, the root cause of the biggest killers of the modern times right now. And how has this awareness that you've taken, learning from Satyen through Warrior Sage and becoming a transcendent leader, how has that influenced this next version, this next reincarnation that you are going through as a leader to take on such an important project?
It happened. One of the
it just showed up.
Right, it showed up.
I love it.
Funny point I wanted to just share is that, you know, through this process we have non-linear connections happen. You know, we have opportunities that start showing up that just seem so opportune for where we're at in life and what our vision and mission is. And so when that opportunity shows up and you're in the right vibration, they magnetize together. And that's definitely what's happened. And also what can also happen is that aspects of your business or teams that don't resonate with your current state of evolution and expansion, they fall away. From the outside, people may see it and have judgments. Oh, that business is closing or starting or it didn't work out. But internally, from the transcendent leadership viewpoint, we're always aligning around the highest vibrational capacity that we're in right now. So in other words, if you're ready to soar with the eagles, you're not gonna be hanging out with the buzzards. You're gonna be moving to a whole other sphere, which means the releasing of missions and visions that are too small for you at this current stage of your power and capacity. So that's what I see metaphysically has been happening with Hinnerk. But Hinnerk, I'll let you share, Andrea, even more on that as you wish.
Well, I think that's a beautiful answer. You know, what Hinnerk said, he's like, it just showed up. And so what we're talking about is this inner alignment, you know, this inner alignment with your beingness that effortlessly attracted this incredible opportunity. And what does that feel like? And how are you dancing in this new realm and reality?
I wonder if moving to a more ordinary, simpler example would actually help and just kind of come back to this big.
Perfect. Let's hear it.
At a slightly later point. What I see when I interact with people and then I watch other people And one aspect of the work that I'm currently doing is I'm helping other entrepreneurs and CEOs in the high-tech space to develop their companies. And so what I'm seeing is, or when I observe myself, I interact with people with ease without really thinking about how to do it. And we talked about that before. It's this connection with them that is almost, I would say, instantaneously built by stripping away all this intellectual or whatever hierarchical or whatever nonsense. Stripping that away, it's much easier to build the connection. And with that connection, without really thinking about it, it happens that I find out what's meaningful to the people, and I can connect what I need from them to their meaning. And that creates motivation. And it's actually just, it automatically happens, and it's simple. And I see other people wonder, they say, well, how do I motivate my people? How do I get them to do what I want them to do? Well, it's not that difficult. It's just remove all that surface area talk and remove all the clutter and the what might be in the way of your own stories around stuff, and connect with them and find out what's really motivating them, and connect to them, to their motivation, to their inner drive, what is needed, and bring that purpose out. Now the bigger picture is actually similar, and it's just as easy, because it's not complicated doing things in a difficult kind of or complex series of steps. This happened because I was helping the CEO of this particular company. It kind of happened that we spoke with each other, and I helped them a little bit on how they could approach their business and raise funds. And from those conversations, it happened that they felt, well, maybe there is a better way of doing this, and maybe I can help them more. And then in the next step, we figured the main or best and key element of doing this is by starting up a new company and bringing the technology in a new company, in a new team that's world-class. And so that's where we are. So I didn't really push anything. I allowed it to happen.
That's beautiful. And it is so simple. It could maybe even be hard to comprehend how simple it is. Right, Satya? Do you think some people might be struggling with that concept?
Well, the thing about simplicity is when you're complicated, even simplicity, to get to simplicity can be complicated. It is simple. And, it's like Bruce Lee said at he says, when you're starting before you know martial arts, you see a guy doing a punch is a punch. When you get into it and you start diving deeper into martial arts and you study the inner science and mechanics and biomechanics, a punch is far more than a punch. There's all types of rotation and movement and subtlety and form and artistry and hip movement and body and whole. There's many aspects of it. But then when you get really good at it and you've mastered it, a punch becomes a punch again. And then you're not even thinking about it, but you've been cultivating the subtle nuances of the artistry of your form, your power dynamics, all the way through this learning phase. And so at the end of it, you go, wow, you see the demonstration of a powerful punch Now, recognizing the amount of time, energy, cultivation, practice, discipline that makes it so a bag is flying off, the wall. Now, the same application of power is also true in a non-physical way and in leading our teams. At the beginning, contact connection sounds very simple. Hey, just connect with your teammates. So in transcendent culture methodology, philosophy, we have specific processes and we have a specific philosophy. We call it frailing. It's a term that we got. And frailing means that you feel for, and Hinnerk shared this really wonderfully. He says you feel for what is their inner motive, your team, a potential business partner, suppliers, potential teammates, current teammates. What is their deepest motive? What do they care about? What are their values that make them feel whole, complete, and that life has meaning? What are the things that are important to them to fulfill? And so one of the trainings that we do to connect, and I'll share this right now, is to feel as we're sharing with each other, what moves you? What moves Hinnerk? Perhaps what moves me? What do I care about? And then inside your heart, inside your being, you make a dedication that in this interaction, I'm here to help you attain that. And if my sense is that what you care about is betterment for the world, healthier people, Hinnerk, then I'm going to be speaking in a way that will support and serve that. I'm not thinking about my needs. I'm subjugating and I'm letting myself feel what are your deepest callings. If I'm chatting with you, Andre, and I'm in a potential business meeting with you and we're looking to do business, that I'm feeling what are the most, not just the business values and the dollars and the cents and the profit margins and the exchanges and the amount of goods or service we want to exchange. That's all valid, all valuable. But at a human level, what makes you feel valuable? What makes you feel that you're here? For me, I would say the feeling that your joy, that who you are, that your words, your passion get brought to the world. I feel for you, your joy is to see other people come into their highest functioning in joy and capacity. And so however I can support you to find that truth and to elevate your skills, your capacities, your ability in that, then that becomes my sacred duty. This degree, this is all done without verbal interaction. It comes from this place of being. And by myself having, and all of us having that demeanor, that quality of service-oriented relationship, and to feel, to bring it in, not just mentally, but to feel I'm here for you, then all I share, how I can serve you, helps to aim that. And it's not there to close a sale energetically. It's not there to ensure something happens. It's there out of true, real service. And when that true, real service happens, we don't generate balancing forces or forces that can destroy the deal or the agreement. We don't do that coming from our ego. We're coming from true alignment. And then the reciprocal partner gets to see, yes, I'm open to that. I feel the trust. And yes, I trust that you're there to help me attain this. Let's do this deal. So this is the way of frailing. Ultimately, it's about putting the person who we're in front of, feeling what is it really about them, and then making ourselves be that example and demonstration. We can attain the tops of all business being spiritually at the bottom of the rung.
Well, Hinnerk, you're obviously experiencing, now that you've got the capacity to connect with others in your whole being, these opportunities are showing up. And what would you say to the person who is watching and maybe they are like you and that they have invested a lot in their intellectual development and they have really high level degrees and they've gotten a lot of recognition around their intelligence, and maybe they might be feeling some resistance on lowering the importance of their IQ or their intelligence or their mind. And did you maybe have an attachment to that? And how were you able to let it go to find a deeper connection to your heart, your soul, and this beingness that you're describing?
Yes, absolutely. And I definitely, I mean, thinking back, well, 20 years or so, I'm probably one of the most alcoholic scientists. Sitting at conferences in the back row and asking mean questions to young scientists.
You were the heckler? You were heckling them?
Really taking things apart and people apart. So yes, I've been there, done that. Yeah, scientific attachment, or what you're saying. Yes, I think I can relate very well to people who have difficulties grasping what this is about and what would that add to what they already know. And I think I referred to that before with this story about reading a Harvard Business Review article about people management, how to create culture, whatever. I've read a ton of them, and every time, I mean, they're really interesting. Yes, they are inspiring, but there is that thing that's missing, and that is you or myself. It's without that being, without me showing up with my true power, not with my position power. Just being there, being clear about who I am, and knowing what my purpose is in that interaction, being in balance and not being tipped out of balance by whatever comment, being totally resilient to whatever happened, and being that over time, so people experience me like that over time, building that connection. So people connect with that being. And yes, you can inspire people. You're brilliant minds, and I used to be the person who's speaking in front of audiences and inspiring people with the vision and the clarity of ideas, how a project can be moved forward. But my experience is that lasts maybe for a week, maybe for a few weeks, and then it tapers off. So you have to do that over and over again. But what really motivates people is getting into the sense, getting a sense for what matters for them and connecting my purpose with their purpose. And that is what you learn here. Because you learn, and it's really, the learning is about myself or yourself, someone who participated. It's self-discovery, self-learning, and becoming that person who's in his or her true power. And that adds it adds so, I almost can't describe how much that adds to just being brilliant and an admired leader. It is, I would say, it's a whole different world. But it is the visibility of that, because these are things you can't really put in a textbook. So when you come from the academic side, there is less visibility to that being part. But the difference is the world.
That's so beautiful. I love your perspective, and you describe it so well. And being on the other side of it, I'm sure a lot of people can relate to what you've been through. And Satyen, I'm curious, when someone is attached to their intellect and their brilliance, and like Hinnerk, they have so many accolades and achievements and validation around that. What is the fear of losing that? Is it the death of the ego that we're talking about here? Oops, you're muted. You're muted. Oh, listen. There you go.
Transcendent leadership, the old school term might be the death of the ego, but I like to consider it the transformation of the ego. We don't need to kill it. We just need to get friendly with it, transform it, help it learn to awaken and breathe, and then connect it and put it back into its rightful operational best position. Rather than the leader of our life, it can be a servant of our life. And this points to what Hinnerk was sharing about power. What is true power? He's talking about things happen naturally, spontaneously, powerfully, in alignment when we're coming from our true power. But for simple model, there's one stage which is denying our power, the denial of power. We might have seen the misuse of power in the past, and there was some part in us that said, we don't want to be like that individual, like that dictator. And so on some level, some of us might be operating from a place of diminishing or denying our true power because we don't want to relive the errors or the negative side of exaggerated power or egoic power. And so we deny our power. And the problem is when we deny our power, we feel smaller. The world becomes smaller. Our goals are much harder to attain. We have less impact. People don't trust us as much because we're shrouded by ourselves. We're diminishing ourselves. Might be for a good reason way back then, but that's the diminishment of power. Another stage we could be in is the exaggeration of power. The worst form of it is megalomania, okay? And that's thinking, I know everything about everything, or an exaggeration. You might have accolades, you might have skills, but you are sharing your power from the position you're in, as Hinnerk was saying. I am this position, see my power. My power is because I'm in this position. That's not enlightened power. It's not transcendent power. That's the power of position, the power of force, the power of exaggeration, the power of not being who you are. And unfortunately, this form of leadership is still quite rampant in business. It's still quite rampant in corporate, in the corporate world. Why? Because for some reason, we've picked up the idea that by having this particular shell, this false identity of either diminishing our power or aggrandizing our power, that we'll get further ahead in life. And both, unfortunately, aren't true. Hinnerk pointed to the fact that we need to strip away, dissolve these untrue parts within us, these false shells, these false identities, these false personas that have become part of our shtick, if you will, part of our self-identity. And we go through a very deep process in our work here where we come to recognize these superficial shells and then we transform them. When we transform them, what happens is our true self comes into the driver's seat of our life. Before, it's like you have an amazing car, as an example, you might really enjoy, or a home that you really like, but you've got false figurines in there. You've got models, or you've got not real people in there. You've got some shell. That's not going to drive the car. It's not going to enjoy the home. But when you awaken and come to this sense of the direct self of who you are, the immediate who you are before any labels. And when you can start to own that, awaken that and say, yes, I am me, and nothing else is needed. I don't need to have a string of letters. I don't need to have a string of accolades from other people to feel whole and solid and complete in myself. I am complete right now. Whatever I've done, my past is filled with successes. It might have failures as well. I am still whole and complete. And all my history is to make me a greater individual, more wise, more mature in this moment. I truly feel that transcendent leadership in this day and age requires vulnerability, to be honest with our past, our successes and our challenges, to extrapolate the learnings from them. And we owe it to ourselves and we owe it to our teams. We owe it to the world to show and be who we actually are without any labels, because that's who people really want to follow. And that's who people will really bat for, is our true nature.
Amazing. And really, it sounds like this is the exact path that you've been on, Hinnerk, is dissolving those layers and really connecting to your true power so that you can connect authentically to others. Would you say that that's a pretty good summary?
Yeah, I guess that really hits it spot on. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, this interview has touched on so many different aspects of success and recognition and power and control, and really aligning with your true self, your true soul, to achieve even more extraordinary accomplishments and giving back to humanity in the biggest way possible. You are such an inspiration, I know, to myself and to Satyan and to everyone who's watching this interview today. And we're asking all of our transcendent leaders one question. And this question is, if you could give one piece of advice or one takeaway to the viewer of what it takes to go from a successful scientist, leader, philosopher, all that you had accomplished and achieved, what was the one key piece of advice that you would give to give the viewer the transcendent experience?
My advice would be to let go of your own importance and the importance of the science and the technology. Not that you want to let go of the science and the technology, but of the importance of it. That opens up so many more possibilities and allows things to happen that you haven't dreamed of. And I'm specifically saying, let go of that strong attachment that you have to the technology and your knowledge. Not of the knowledge and the technology, just that attachment.
Wow, that's some deep wisdom right there. We could do an entire course and seminar just on that one piece of advice. Satyan, do you have anything to say about that? I mean, that was really, yeah, that was like Buddha wisdom dropped there, right?
It is the essence of Buddha's wisdom. And Buddha's wisdom is that the more attachment there is to outcomes, the more attachment there is to things, the more a backfire effect happens in life and in reality. The less attachment, the more we can let go of control, the more we can let go of outdated principles and identities. We can let go of control and let go of attachment to even our own knowledge, even the brilliance of our own products and service. And then we focus on the real thing, which is the humanness, the true, why are we really here? And then when we do that, when we lower the importance, there is, as Hinnerk says, there's miracles that are ready to show up at your doorstep.
That effortless discovery and that effortless contribution and playing the biggest game possible. Well, Hinnerk, you are an amazing example of a transcendent leader. I know I speak for myself and also every viewer. We are so grateful that you have been here with us to share your wisdom. And I know this is just the beginning, just a little touch of your vast knowledge and wisdom. And I know that we are going to be watching you and following you. And for myself and all of humanity, thank you for the important work you are doing on the planet for all of us.
Thank you, Andrea, and thank you, Satyan.
Well, this has been another amazing transcendent leader episode. Satyan, what would you like to share in closing of another incredible journey adventure that continues to evolve before our eyes?
Thank you, Hinnerk. Thank you, Andrea. You both are a demonstration of these principles in life and in action. And my heart's calling here to everyone who's participating here and listening is to know that this depth of connection and heart and higher consciousness is absolutely available to you. This is not a far off thing. This is something that's immediate, already in our hands grasp. And all you have to do is to choose to be open to a way of life, a way of leadership that inspires you to a whole other realm of evolution and being. And I invite you from my heart to that depth of discovery of yourself and what life is for you next, right now.
What a beautiful invitation. Thank you, Satyan, for creating this and creating this invitation for us all. I know that we want to hear from you, Satyan, Hinnerk, myself, all of the transcendent leaders in this community. We would love to hear your thoughts, your feedback, and maybe what you are willing to lower attachment, lower importance on. That would be an amazing takeaway from this interview. Hinnerk has shared so much valuable gold and wisdom, and we'd love to hear what affected you the most. So until our next episode, where we will be inviting another transcendent leader to share more cutting edge leadership, we invite you to reach out, stay connected, and we will see you next time. Here's to your transcendence. Thank you. Goodbye. Hinnerk. Bye, Satyan.
Hi. Hi, everyone. Thank you.